I'm Zabh Blount-Hill, and I'm a political science major. Recently, I've done a project on slavery, and more specifically, slavery in the state of Louisiana. To do this project, I used the Louisiana slave trade database. I chose amongst various variables 5. I chose the origin, the race, the sex, the statistics of runaway slaves, and the statistics of African languages spoken. I chose these 5 because they show diversity in slavery. I chose the origins because the origin shows where slaves came from, and it shows that slaves weren't just from Africa. It shows they came from the Caribbean, from India, and also from various places in Europe. I chose race because it shows an in-depth view of not only where slaves originated from, but that slaves were of different races, such as mulattoes and blacks and Indians, and also some white slaves. I chose the sex because, contrary to belief that there's more women than men in the world, more men were captured and forced into slavery than women. I chose slaves that ran away because, even though it doesn't show diversity in gender or race, it shows diversity in mentality of slaves. It shows that slaves ran away for freedom, that although most slaves ran away from freedom, it shows that a percentage of slaves complained about the slaves that were running away. And it shows that a smaller percentage than slaves that complained were slaves that helped other slaves, even though they didn't run for freedom themselves. These charts show that there was great diversity in slavery. In conclusion, the diversity in the charts show diversity in the actual state of Louisiana. It shows that although slavery was primarily a terrible thing, a bad thing, it shows that Louisiana has a background of culture, and it shows how slavery transformed the state itself into a vibrant cultural state. It must also be noted that although most slaves were from Africa, and most slaves were black, even amongst the African slaves there was diversity, because there was not one united language, but multiple languages. Along with diversity, the slave database itself helps researchers to track the habits of slaves and also their skills and agents. This allows researchers to go back and pinpoint exactly where slaves came from, African history that ran concurrent with the transatlantic slave trade.